is Jake Folger, and I want to talk about what happened with my brother. He killed himself. It was actually a long time ago, but I'm still really affected by it. Um, so I'm not really sure the year it was. He was uh, about 9 months older than me, and I'm 59 now. I think he killed himself uh, when he was about 21 years old. So it actually was a really long time ago. But yeah, it still affects me. And so what happened? I was living with my father at the time, and uh, in the middle of the night, my father opened my bedroom door and woke me up and said, "Chris killed himself." And I was like, "Oh my God, I couldn't believe it." I was like, "Wow." And he was living with this foster family I had when I was a kid. He went back to live with them, and so apparently he cut his throat in the basement of their house. And so I called them, and uh, apparently they had called my father, and then I called them, and and asked what was going on, and they told me what happened. And so the next day, my father asked me if I would go there. They lived in Massachusetts, and I lived in Virginia, and my father asked me if I would go and bury him. And so I went. I took a plane there, and I stayed with the Stockwells. That was their name. The people that Chris lived with, and my former foster family. And it was, yeah, it was really, really overwhelming. So I went with Lou Stockwell to the funeral home, and had to pick out a casket. And so we did that. Actually, Lou ended up. I didn't know what to choose, and so Lou ended up picking out one that he thought would be nice. And so the funeral was a few days later, and I I was walking into the funeral home, and I just stopped at the doorway, and I said, "I can't do this. I can't go and see him." And and Mary Stockwell said, "You have to." And I don't really know why I have to. I had to do that, but I went ahead and went in, and I saw him. It was an open casket, and yeah, it was really bad. Going back a little bit, maybe a few years before he killed himself, he had been involved in an accident, a electrical accident, and he lost his right arm, his whole right arm, and his uh, right leg from the knee down. And and actually, the reason why he did was because someone had hid a pound. I think it was a pound of marijuana in this high voltage vault uh, that basically provided electric power to the town he lived in, and it was surrounded by a big chain link fence. And I don't know why they hid it in there, but it was for him. They hid it for him. I don't know why they did that, but he climbed the fence and he went in, and he reached in to get the marijuana, and he hit a frayed wire and got electrocuted. And basically, the electricity at that point just burned his arm and his leg off. I mean, it was incredibly painful for him, and just an awful tragedy. So after that happened, he started drinking pretty heavily, and so he became a raging alcoholic, and his life was really miserable. At some point, he left there. That happened in Virginia. At some point, he went to live with my former foster family, the Stockwells, in Massachusetts, and he was working. He had a job, I think, finishing furniture, doing something like that, and he was getting by. It was good that he had the support of the Stockwells. They helped him, but I learned after he killed himself. I learned that from my grandmother, my father's mother, that he she had always promised him and I that we would get an inheritance from her when she died, and so he was hoping that he could get his share of the inheritance early so that he could start some kind of business and support himself better. And my grandmother just said no, I can't do that. I have to. I'm going to wait. And so he was just really distressed. I think he was. I heard from my grandmother that he was kind of worried about the Stockwells. Chris had heard from. He was in a room near the Stockwell, Lou and Mary's bedroom. He was like in their bathroom or something like that down the hall, and he overheard Mary say something like, I kind of wish Chris wasn't here. I want to be able to enjoy your. She was talking to Lou, and she said that she wanted to kind of enjoy life with Lou by themselves, and so Chris was really worried that he wasn't going to be able to stay there much longer. Admittedly, Chris was a problem because he got really drunk all the time, and he got arrested and put in jail overnight to sober up, and then the Stockwells would have to go pick him up, and so I think there was a lot of problems like that going on. But yeah, I think he just got worried, and so he asked my grandmother, for this inheritance, and she said no, and he thought he was going to have to leave the Stockwells, and he was really worried, and so he just decided to kill himself. And there was one other thing. A friend of his had uh, tried to kill himself just a few, maybe a few days or weeks prior to Chris killing himself, and that was, you know, like, it's always a problem, really. If it's at all on your mind, if suicide is at all on your mind, and you have a friend that is successful with committing suicide, it kind of gives you the idea that you might be able to do it too, and that probably played a part. So now, for me, my parents are both dead now. My father, that's another story. My father actually killed himself too, about when he was 81 years old. I'm going to talk about that another time, but yeah, he's dead, and my mom died of cancer when I was 3. So I don't have any parents anymore, and I always, it did cross my mind over the years from time to time before Chris killed himself that, um, you know, there was some comfort in thinking that when my parents pass away, I would have at least my brother as a family, um, that I could reach out to and be friends with, and so that was gone, and so now, I'm 59 years old, and um, it's really sad because I don't have any family, none, and it's really sad. Suicide is really hard on the people that are left behind. If you're going through that, if you are thinking about killing yourself, think about your family and your friends and everything else. Now, luckily, I have some really amazing, wonderful, very close friends, and I have my church, and it's a pretty strong community for me, and so I'm not really alone. I do have good people around me, and that helps. Um, but I did want to talk about this. It's really, yeah, I mean, it really bothers me most. I think about it frequently. I would say at least every couple of days it crosses my mind that Chris took his life. Um, but especially around his birthday and the holidays. His birthday is December 15th, and I tend to get a little bit wacky around that time. Um, I always try to light a candle for him on his birthday. And, the holidays are really hard. I have a friend named Melissa that she comes over on Christmas and spends the day with me, uh, so I'm not alone, and that helps a lot. But yeah, it's a horrible thing. Really hard to live with, and I really miss him. So I just want to talk about that. Thanks for listening.